Okay, the UK government has scrapped plans to allow fans back into stadiums from October the 1st. That was a provisional date anyway. When they announced that provisional date, the Scottish government, a devolved power, devolved administration, said September the 14th would be their target to get fans back into Scottish stadiums and arenas because of the weaker TV deals for Scottish sport and the more reliant Scottish sport is on fans being in attendance. These were provisional dates. Absolutely provisional, they were subject to change. The Scottish Government last week said we're going to move that date from the 14th of September to the 4th of October. Within hours of that announcement being made, the EIHL, the Elite Ice Hockey League, which is the UK's top professional ice hockey competition, announced that they were indefinitely postponing the 2020-2021 season. They had no guaranteed start date. Their statement stated that they needed a minimum of 75% attendance of fans because it's a gate-driven league. If they were to play with no fans in attendance or limited capacity, the league would go bust. There's no way of denying the financial issues there with British ice hockey. So that's the first sports league to say we're not going to resume play for this coming season. What we have now seen is English football, for example. We've seen Bury go out of business this time last year. Before the end of August, they were already done as a football club. Macclesfield go out of business since the end of last season. Southend United facing a winding up order from the High Court. The owner of Huddersfield coming out during the height of lockdown saying 50 to 60 clubs could go out of business by the end of next season without fans being allowed back into stadiums and a full resumption of play and a resumption to normality is not an idle scare tactic, it's an actual reality. It's already starting to happen. There are clubs already out there, already up against the wall financially. Bolton, we saw Bolton struggle last season as well. There are clubs already in English football in the professional top four flights risking going out of business. And if clubs like Manchester United are losing £5 million per day with no fans going to Old Trafford, even well-run clubs financially at least, because Man United financially are well-run, on the field things may be slightly different, but financially as a business, if they're losing that much money per day, and they're one of the wealthiest clubs and most profitable clubs in the world, it tells you the situation. We've got some big sporting events next year. And one of them that's being hosted in the UK is the Rugby League World Cup this time next year. Will that event be able to take place? And that is something that's key because that is an event that is going to be It's going to be massively important to get fans into those stadiums. Massively important. Will they be able to get that Rugby League World Cup on and going ahead and played? That's something that has to be thought about because there's a lot of money being put into organising a massive event like that. And then you've got to ask the question, will the Olympics take place next summer? Will the World Championship Ice Hockey take place next summer? Will things like Wimbledon and the French Open and a whole host of other sporting events take place next summer? Euro 2021, which was originally meant to be Euro 2020. Will these big sporting events take place next summer? Because to move them again would be financially ruinous for the sponsors, the organisers. It'd create a logistical nightmare for the players and the coaches and the federations to move people around. Will they be able to take place? And there's question marks about the Olympics possibly not taking place next year in Japan, in Tokyo. So questions need to be answered. But when a national government is saying we're not going to allow fans back in just yet, this is sort of following on from the French line saying there'll be no professional sport till September, when they came out and said there's going to be no professional sport. The earliest it will be September, back in, I think, April. Forced the hand of the French Football League to say, we're going to call the season now. And the fact that the Tour de France went ahead, guess what? In September, they pushed it. The Tour de France was the first major sporting event to really take place in France, and fans were allowed at the roadside. It's very hard to keep fans away from the Tour de France. But that just shows you they delayed the Tour de France by like 2 months to comply with French government guidance. So there is going to be a knock-on impact. And when you've got sports leagues saying we're not going to resume play until we're allowed 75% capacity in our arenas because it's financially ruinous to go ahead with no fans in attendance, tells you something about the state of sport and how reliant a lot of sports are on fans being there. The fact that the Toronto Wolfpack did not resume play in the Super League and may not be able to field a team next season highlights the issues that rugby league are facing. The ECB cutting back 20% of its employee budget, its employment budget. That's 62 positions, not including subcontractors, losing their jobs at the ECB. The RFL seeking a loan from the government. RFU, the Welsh Rugby Union, the Scottish Rugby Union, cutting jobs. The FA announcing massive losses. These issues aren't going to go away overnight. And now that fans are allowed back into stadiums on the 1st of October, we don't know when they're going to ease that restriction. There's been some trial events at a few stadiums and a few sporting venues, but now that they've decided to go, no, we're going for a blanket fan ban. This is going to be financially ruinous for a lot of sports. Now, the sports will survive. Let's be clear on that. But how many teams will go out of business? How many athletes will have to retire because it's not financially viable to be an athlete anymore? How sports look coming out of this is going to be significantly different to what they are now. There's going to be a lot of sports teams that don't make it through the next 12 to 18 months. A lot of professional sports teams will go out of business, I have no doubt. With no fans in attendance, and the fact that the bottom line is heavily, we've seen how important fans are to sport since March. And the fact that now sports teams are announcing massive losses with no fans going to games tells you that fans have been overlooked and underappreciated by professional sport at the top level for too long. And now they're actually feeling the pinch of us not being there. So, with fans not in attendance, sport is going to look massively, drastically different. The sports will continue to survive. Kids will still play football. We'll still play cricket. We'll still play golf. People would still, be able to play ice hockey at some point. There will still be ice rinks there. We'll still play rugby league and rugby union, tennis. People will still play these sports, but the structures and the teams that people play for and support will be drastically different come next year, the year after. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.